I'm Chief Cheryl Victorian. This is Waco PD on the beat. Whether it's crime or just getting to know the Waco Police Department, we're here to talk about things that matter most to you.
Hello, Waco, and welcome to Waco PD on the beat. I'm Sierra Shipley, the Public Information Officer.
And I am Officer Draper with the Neighborhood Engagement Team.
That's right. You did it. Third episode down.
I know.
And we've got Detective Micheal Fife here with, I guess, computer crimes, but we're going to talk about why maybe that name should maybe change.
It needs to change.
It needs to change. We're going to talk about
And we're
what
both
going
to learn so much.
We really are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll learn something too.
Yeah. This is a learning episode.
Let's start with basics. How long have you been with the Waco Police Department?
As of this recording, today is my 12th year as a commissioned officer with Waco.
Congratulations. That's so
Yes.
exciting.
My
I was commissioned in
goodness.
can I say the date?
Yeah.
Okay. December 8th, 2010 was when I was commissioned.
That's amazing.
That's
Oh,
exciting. 12 years.
happy anniversary.
Only 30 more to go.
I was going to say, how many do you plan on doing?
Well, since I just have a brand new baby girl at home,
Oh.
probably here
Oh,
for
that's
at least
right.
another 16.
Oh, that's so
cute.
exciting.
So
Baby Five.
So cute.
they are cute.
Oh, not yet. Not maybe later. Anywho, that's not what we're here to talk about.
That's not what
That's
this
not
has
what we're
nothing
talking
to do
about.
with computer crimes.
Yes,
so.
nothing to do with computer crimes. So, have you only been with the Waco Police Department? Have you been an officer before?
No, Waco's my first department that I worked for. Before that, I was in the military.
Okay, well, thank you for your service. What brought you to being a police? I guess people from the military, they kind of always like, yeah, it was kind of the same, easy transition.
Well, mine was actually a transition out of necessity. So, not too much craziness, but when I got back from my second deployment from Iraq, my then wife kicked me out of the house and said she was divorcing me. And I was getting out of the Army, and so I needed to figure out what I was going to do. And
Yeah.
again, kind of like you were saying, I needed to find something that could use my skill set that I learned from the Army and it'd still be something that I would enjoy to do. So I actually thought about, before I went into the military, law enforcement. So I'm like, I'll look around, see what's out there, and landed in Waco.
Lo and behold, Waco
Nice.
PD 12 years later.
Yeah.
Happy to have you. So, explain, the 12 years that you've been here. Well, you started out as patrol.
Yep. So I did about 6.5 years in patrol, and then I moved over to my current position in computer crimes.
All right, so about 50%
Yeah.
in patrol, 50% in this. And so, okay, let's talk about computer crimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, first of all, I sent you questions, and you were like, that's not really what that's not really what I
When you
do.
think computer crimes, I mean,
I'm thinking something happens to where I am victimized, through something on the internet or email or something, whether or not, and then you investigate that. But you do not.
We do not.
You do not do that. So explain what you do.
So what I do, a more correct term for what I do is an examiner. So I actually used to fall under the umbrella of crime scene unit. We were a subsection to them. And then what we do is that anything that contains any type of digital media, so cell phones, computers, tablets, digital recording devices, anything of of that nature that might have evidence that we need is submitted to our lab, and we're the ones that go and either hack into the device to get the data, open up the device, extract the data, and then we comb through it to see if there's anything that might be important to the detective that submitted it, and we give that data to them in a report, and then they follow up from there.
see, I had I'm an officer, and I had no idea that that's exactly what y'all did, and that's you got to be pretty smart to do that. I do good just to unlock my computer.
I think he gets that a lot. I think he gets the I had no idea
Yes.
comment often.
Yeah,
So
just
but
by
yeah.
that facial expression.
Yeah, well, I mean, you hear, like you said, you hear computer crimes, and
Yeah.
you think, well, you investigate the crimes that happen with people on computers. And I think that comes back to when the unit was first created back in, I believe, 2004 is when the unit was first created. And their primary focus was working with computers. And so I think they just called them computer crimes because they were
Right.
dealing probably about 99% of their workload was working on computers. Whereas in today's age, my workload is about 90% cell phones.
Wow.
So you don't actually investigate an actual crime. You will actually go through the
Data?
the data or the actual thing to assist, or is
Yes.
it? Are you actually a detect? the
So what
I
I
don't know
do,
how-
so to kind of, we'll go walk through kind of what
baby steps.
There we go.
I like you're
So-
talking to your daughter because
So basically what happened, a detective, so like, let's say special crimes. They're working a case and they want to know where this person might have been. And this person had a cell phone on them. Well, they'll bring us the cell phone. It's like, hey, can we get the location data off the phone? The phone's locked. They won't give us the passcode, very typical scenario. Well, then we go in with our tools that we have, and we'll break into the phone, whether it be through digital means, and extracting the data and then looking through it that way, or actually physically removing the memory chip from the phone and then reading the data directly from the chip. And then we'll look for the data that the detective's looking for, in this case, location data. And then whatever location data we get, we'll put in a report for them. Then it gets turned back over to the detective, and then they use that to further their investigation.
Wow.
Dang.
Mind blown. I did not know that. That's awesome.
Wow. And so how many of you are doing this job?
I believe in the county, there is 4 of us. So we have 2 here
Okay.
at Waco PD, myself and Detective Varney. I believe the tag unit has one through either county or DPS. And then Woodway has an officer.
Do
that
y'all
does it.
all work together? Or do you just do Waco PD stuff, or do y'all
So-
all work together for the county?
So we consider ourselves a county resource. So I've worked with most other agencies in McLennan County. I've also assisted with some federal agencies as well, because we could typically have a quicker turnaround time than if they had to send their stuff off to their individual labs. So I've done stuff for ATF, and so Secret Service. So
Oh, wow.
so we help anyone who needs it. So we don't discriminate here.
That is awesome. That is awesome. That's impressive. Very
Yeah.
impressive.
And how important, I guess your job is really important, because I'm sure your job takes a lot of time.
It's very time consuming. We can only move as fast as our data can be processed. So, and with everyone's devices, as they get larger and larger, it takes more time to comb through that data. Like a typical cell phone I'm getting now, if we're looking for certain images, a certain typical cell phone will have about 20,000 images on it.
Oh,
Wow.
20,000?
20,000. So if you think about any website you go to, all those images, they're actually downloaded to your phone most of the time.
Stop it.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Like on a website?
Yep. The reason that your phones do that, so if you go back to that website, it can load faster.
Oh, look
So-
at this mind blown.
Wow.
So obviously a detective
Yeah.
doesn't need 20,000 images. So one of the longest things we do, and as you've done it for a while, you get a little faster at it, but we comb through all that, clear out a lot of the noise and be like, all right, here's only 3,000 images. That might be more
Might be more what you're looking
for.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And nowadays, I mean, everything is technology, so
Yeah.
I'm sure
So-
that
so-
it's...
keep going.
No, I was going to say, so, I mean, you've got your hands full.
We stay busy.
And I was going to jump off of that saying, in the 6 years that you've been doing this, how has that changed? Because technology, I mean, we were pretty technologically advanced 6 years ago, but from 6 years to now, totally different, right?
Yeah, and so a lot of that nowadays, so back when the unit first started, a lot of the skill sets that they use was a lot of manually finding the stuff. Well, today, because there's so much data, it's not possible. So we rely on software tools. And when new phones come out and our software updates come out, sometimes those software programs or the tools that we use have to change to be able to extract the data from the phones. Because phone companies, they're more about trying to keep your data safe.
Right.
And so we have to figure out ways to make it, in a way,
crack that.
unsafe so we
Yeah.
can get it.
Yeah.
And so it's a cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
Someone will come out with a new thing that makes our tools useless, and then a couple months down the line, we'll get an
Wow.
update that now allows us to bypass that. So it's just a back and forth.
So they don't even help because, like you said, the phone companies are trying to do everything we can to make their phones safe, but then we in turn kind of are hacking that. But they don't, even as a police department, they don't provide certain tools or ways to.
They do not.
Oh my goodness.
So this stuff is, I mean, I'm sure you've got to have like a basic knowledge of technology, but is there a lot of training and stuff that you go to
there
to
is.
kind of
So
learn?
there is not a requirement to be tech savvy, if you want to say. I actually have my degree in computer science, so it helps.
I was
I
going to
say
ask,
that.
well, where's the degree?
And so, but yeah, there's still also a lot of training. And so I've been to, like when I first started before COVID hit, there was one time where I was gone for an entire month at training.
Wow.
I did 2 weeks in.
They would have to give me an entire year, and even then,
and
probably
so,
kick me out of the unit.
Well, and it's definitely one of those things, if you don't like technology, if you don't like to delve into because sometimes you'll come across a problem and there's not a solution out there. And so you kind of have to, well, what if I tried this? You have to be able to be like, I'm willing to step outside my normal tool set and try something different. And then if it works, you're amazed. And if it doesn't, you're like, well, that didn't work. We'll try something else.
Okay, so when did you get the computer science degree? Did you always have that before the military?
I got it while I was in the military.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, ever since I was a little kid, I've been tinkering with computers, building my own computers, breaking computers. And so,
probably get that one.
but
So
yeah.
then when you were transitioning from patrol to this unit, did you know about the unit beforehand?
That was actually
How did you get into it?
So this unit that we're in is actually, when I was being recruited by Babe Torres, this is one of the units that he told me about because I told him that was an interest of mine. Now, granted, he never told me how hard it could be potentially to get into the unit because there's only 2 people in the position. And typically most the people in it before me usually stayed in there until they retired. So it doesn't usually come open very often. And so, but when I joined Waco, one of my goals was if this unit came open, that's what I'm.
That's what you want.
So
you plan on staying in this position till you retire?
That's the plan.
That's the plan. It could. I mean, we all know our plans could change, but as of right now, yeah.
Oh my!
So just imagine how much more technology will change.
It's going to be interesting because digital forensics compared to other forensic sciences, is a very new and young science. And so, and with how fast technology changes, it's still kind of stays in that like young infant phase, like trying to figure how things work.
So now the detective comes to you and he's like, hey, I gotta, figure A, B, and C out. And how often are you able to help the case? But then are there times where you're like, I got nothing?
There's as both. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of feedback, I guess, to say, hey, this cracked the case. I mean, I do know there was a stalking case that I was helping on. And the funny thing is that nothing was submitted to our lab, but a detective had questions on how certain technologies worked. And so I was able to go and say, hey, this is how the technologies look. I was looking at the returns that they got from a provider. And with the information that they had that they couldn't really make sense of, I was able to help them locate some information that was critical to their case. I actually tied a person to a location that it was a stalking case. And he was saying he was somewhere else, but because of the information we had, we could tie at least the phone he was using to a certain location.
Wow.
And so.
Oh my goodness. That's what I'm saying. I mean, those phones hold so much info.
Oh, they do.
I mean.
And we love it.
So I would say then, what's the most common thing that you are working on or are you usually.
So what I tell people, my 2 primary clients for what I do is our Crimes Against Children unit and our Special Crimes unit. And so typically with the Crimes Against Children, it's typically dealing with 13 through 15-year-old girls doing stuff on social media that they shouldn't be, and then that gets leaked out everywhere, and then it becomes a giant mess. So they bring it to me to see what can we find out. What's this were they coerced? Were they not?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then with special crimes, it's like, well, was this really a suicide? Was this the homicide? Where were these people at? So again, location data is usually a big one. So,
wow. And I think you bring up a good point, and I think that's kind of a sidebar here, is with the Crimes Against Children unit and how dangerous social media is, and even texting and emailing and all these different things. How many times do you see that, there are these underage kids basically, probably doing things that they shouldn't be doing, but maybe don't realize how dangerous it is?
More than I would like.
Yeah.
And so, and I can speak from personal experience from a family member that went through it, that their kid got on an app, and it happened to be, actually, it was a karaoke app.
Oh.
And teenagers crave attention. And so predators know that. And so, she started talking to individuals on this karaoke singing site, and they were telling her how beautiful her voice was, and you can go all the way. And don't get me wrong, she's not a bad singer, but she's not.
Yeah.
Mariah
It was
Carey.
She's not.
But
And so they were telling her all these things, and then you can see the progression where they start asking even more personal questions and stuff like that. And luckily, we were able to stop it before it got too far. But in my line of work with cases, there's a progression that you can see, and they're working up to a point where they get the individual to be comfortable. Hey, well, send me a picture in, your swimsuit.
Sure. Yeah.
And then from there, they try to get less and less and less, and then.
That's something for like parents and stuff to understand, is even these apps are probably some sort of chat feature with all of them, that you might think, even though it's a karaoke app, there's still some sort of way to communicate. Yep. So just kind of paying attention to those things, and then just kind of talking to the kids and making sure they understand.
And I think that's the biggest part, because a lot of the times I hear parents were like, I didn't know my child was doing this.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of parents want to give their children a sense of privacy. But unfortunately, when you hand them a device that's connected to the entire world, that's something that they can't have unfeathered access to.
Yeah.
And my kids, I tell them I have the right at any time to take that device and go through it. And
especially with your job, your kids probably know that I can find anything.
You will find everything.
But that's the regular parent, though. If you're not checking on your children to see what they're doing, you will never know that they're talking to some interesting characters online.
This is just crazy, like karaoke app. Like, you wouldn't really think that that's actually like, oh yeah, she's just singing. There's no
But I mean, it's good. A lot of stuff is just education. A lot of people don't know. I wouldn't have thought at karaoke app, but to hear that probably every single app out there has some sort of chat feature, and to know how to get into it, and to and understand that as a parent, you can go through that child's phone and make sure that it's not invasion of privacy. It's just to make sure that they're staying safe, because they might not fully understand the full concept of everything that they're doing.
No, and that's the thing. Predators, again, they target that age, between 13 and 15-ish, because there's a lot of changes going on, both physically, emotionally. It's like, what's the word? I'm going to mess it up.
It's okay. We can cut and paste.
Yeah, the physiology.
There we go.
Yes, that's a hard one.
Yes, and so, and they also crave that attention, and so again, no matter what the app is, predators know this, so they're going to be there. And so parents just need to be, one, they need to talk to their children about being safe on anything that they're doing. And two, they need to put the expectation forward, just so though, it's not because I don't trust you.
Right.
It's that I don't trust the other people on the other side.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And so how important has your job been when it comes to separating that work from the detective? Because like you said, it can be time consuming. I
mean, you don't really, do you mean by separate?
Well, I guess like the detective doesn't have to do that, right? Because how would it be if the detective had to do what you were doing too?
Well, so the software we use it's not a cheap software.
Okay.
So
money.
yes.
That's all you had to say.
Yeah.
So money is a factor. Again, it's a skill set. A lot of
Education in there.
education there. So again, especially with some older detectives who maybe started when computers weren't a huge driving force, now telling them, hey, go through this cell phone or this tablet and extract the data and go through that data and be able to explain in court how you extracted that data.
Get it off the hard drive. What's a hard drive?
So
Right. Wow. Okay. Okay. So what has been your favorite part about working in this unit?
really for me, it's been the learning. So the being able to know that I can go in, take a phone apart, remove the memory chip from it, and be able to read directly from the memory chip. I mean, granted, the phone is completely destroyed, but I still got the data.
Yeah.
And that's what matters to us. And so this is, when someone thinks, I broke my phone, you can't get anything off of it, and I could take it apart, go to where the memory chip is, and remove the chip, because unless you know exactly where that memory chip is, breaking the screen is not going to stop me.
Not gonna do
And I
anything.
could find it, yeah.
And so,
Okay, good to know. Make sure that if I break my phone, doesn't mean anything.
Give me your phone.
What's been like a hard part about your job, or like you get a detective comes to you and they're like, hey, can you help me do this and this, and you're like, oh, I hate when it's the hardest part.
well, no, the hardest part is when you actually have to deal with what I would call like legit child porn. So like worst case scenario, I've seen as young as 3 months
Ugh.
being assaulted.
Yeah, that's
And
gotta be
so
hard.
going through, I mean, you're grateful that you found it, because now you can get rid of that person off the streets, so he can't be a predator anymore. But again, you still have to find those images
You
or
still
those
have
videos.
to see it.
And
Yeah.
So that's actually probably the hardest part.
Right. Oh man, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's gotta be
Tough.
difficult.
That's tough for a lot of people. So,
Yeah.
well, I like to talk or ask this question to everyone because, it gives us a time to kind of, maybe not all officers like donuts, You never know.
It's a
Self
lie.
tact.
They all do. They tell you otherwise, they're lying.
As Nick said, a better question would be,
I don't
what
know.
is your favorite donut place?
Well, let's see.
But
Ship place.
Thank you.
It's her last name.
Just kidding. No relation. Although people think that's funny. They're like, oh, Shipley, you work at the police department. I'm like, yes.
Well, you think about it, my
Planned
last
it.
name is Fife, and you're probably too young. You're probably too young too.
5. Was that like 50?
No, well, that's my badge number is the 50. But do you know who Barney Fife is?
25. That's what it is.
Do you know who that is?
The
Tom?
name sounds really familiar. I'm gonna be honest. Every time I think of your last name, I honestly just think of like fee fi fo fum. I'm gonna be honest about that one.
That's okay.
That's every time I read that. I know it's fee fi fo fum, but I say five.
So, you ever heard of the Andy Griffith Show?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a deputy on there called Barney Fife. So,
Is he like is he
He's the
funny,
funny
one.
one?
He's the
I was gonna say
funny
he's
one.
the funny.
He's the
Okay,
funny one,
okay,
yeah.
then yes. Okay, so I'm on the cusp of like being too young.
yeah.
Okay, all right, I like it. That's good. Okay, anyway, back to my original question
Okay.
though.
Sidebar.
Misconception, stereotype, just something you'd like to remind the community of as they see us on the streets.
We're not trying to get you in trouble. I think when people see police, most of the time, there's like, oh, they're here to find out if I did something wrong. In the work that I do, in digital forensics, I'm not necessarily looking for evidence to see if you're the guilty party. I'm there to see whether the information could get you off the list, clear you of what you have, so we can focus on, people who are involved in it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing I would like people to think is like, we're not there to prove that you did something wrong per se.
Yeah.
No, we might be there to try to figure out that you didn't have anything to do with it.
Sure.
That way we can move on to the actual people who are involved.
Yeah. It's just there to find, the truth.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's clearing you or finding the actual person who did it.
I think too often people focus on the fact that they finding guilt instead of clearing.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. I like that one. No one said that one yet. They usually just talk about donuts.
I don't know why you're looking. This is the
To be
first one
honest.
I've been on, so I haven't had a chance. I mean, you're my first one with that question.
Oh,
so
yeah,
now I
no.
can. That's going to be a tough one to beat.
I'm
It
sure
is gonna be
someone
a tough
will.
one to beat. No, I don't know.
So-
I don't know about that one.
I don't even remember
This
what
is
was
the
mine.
New year. I know we.
Well, good thing that these are recorded. You can go back and
I know.
Exactly. Go
I
back
know
and
what you
listen.
said.
You might have said something
this
about.
is going to go on for forever.
You know,
Forever.
you might have said something about like you guys are human too type.
I'm not a robot.
Yeah.
I
No.
don't know.
Have you met somewhere off? No.
Yeah.
I'll give you a
We're
list later.
funny. I'm a comedian in my spare time.
I laugh at all
to
my own
myself.
jokes.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Well. Thank you so much for
You're welcome.
joining us.
Yeah, fun.
Anything else you'd like to talk about or anything that you want to clear up because no one knows what you do. But now many people know.
I was going to say, I am educated, and I
now,
feel like I have learned so much
anytime
today.
someone goes, Fife, I don't know what he does. I'll be like, let me tell you what he does.
And then you're going to start talking about the Andy Griffin show.
I'm gonna say,
Have you ever heard of this show? It's great.
I'm gonna say, you have a computer science degree? Because I don't.
I do not.
I don't-
I have mad respect for that. Again, I am not tech savvy,
Yeah.
so that is
So you're
impressive.
telling me you can't tell me about the different file systems?
Like,
Can you name one?
like
felt
the
like-
M drive on our.
That's a hard drive, or is it
Oh.
storage drive?
Oh, okay.
At least
So-
you got something in a drive.
Yeah.
At least I said something.
So
You
would
can't even-
reverse be another drive?
file systems? I don't even know in what context a file system is.
So how does a hard drive store your files? There has to be a
The-
format that it has to follow, right?
Yes,
Yes. And so different file systems have different structures.
of course.
And so the reason that's important in my job, at least back when they were first starting off, we would learn how file structures were actually set up. And so I could manually go into a computer, look at the ones and zeros, be able to read that.
It's that thing.
And so, and then I could say, okay, it's this type of file system. The file system stores stuff like this. And then I would be able to follow that trail to the file that I was looking for.
Oh.
Now we have really cool tools.
You know
that
what
do
trail
all
I
that.
have followed is the one to Lost. Like,
No, but he said the ones and zeros, and I do escape rooms all the time. I love escape rooms, and there was one escape room that we had to do, and we had to connect all the ones and like we had to match. What is the code called? What's
So
it?
the
It
ones
wa-
and zeros binary.
binary
Binary
Yeah,
code.
binary code, and we had to just know what that was, and I was like, I'm never getting out of here.
might as well get comfy.
Exactly.
Wait, was that the one that I was on with you?
Yes.
I think
You
that's
were
what I did. I got comfy because I was like, we're stuck. I've accepted
You
the
were there. Yes.
destination.
And so
yeah. So fast forward, we did not get out of that
Okay.
room.
I wish Fife was with us. That would have literally clicked in his head so fast. I would have been like, "What are you doing?"
Ones and zeros. Yeah.
Ones and zeros. Okay, so what's a file? But the name of file system.
So you have FAT,
Of course, I knew that.
and then you have FAT32,
Oh,
then you have exFAT.
okay.
like we're like FAT FAT.
Yep.
FAT is a file system.
Yep. FAT is a file system.
file.
I'm trying. I can't remember what the
FAT32.
acronym is
Ah,
for it.
darn
I
it.
used to, so bad on me. I should. You-
I have Google.
Wow.
Hey,
No,
hey.
see, I never would have guessed. I had no idea. I've learned something new today.
So, and the thing which is funny because we get it a lot with some of our tech discs. Our reports can be rather large, and so they'll bring us flash drives to put the report on, and depending on how the flash drive is formatted in, it can only hold certain size files. So we have to usually reformat them to put them in the correct file system size to put bigger files on.
File allocation
Table.
table.
There we go.
File allocation table.
There you go.
Wow.
And so,
Dang. And so, how many are there?
there's a
Oh, okay.
lot.
Never mind. Doesn't
Yeah.
know the number. It's the limit does not exist.
So the FAT systems, those are for PC. Macs have their own file system that they use.
Jeez.
And so
Oh
then-
my.
then you have Linux systems. Most people outside of computer realms probably never even heard of Linux.
No, I barely understand binary.
Ones and zeros.
Ones and zeros binary.
That's what I got.
Yep. Well,
And you put enough of those together, you can get hexadecimal.
of course.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm just going to say, next time someone comes up to me and is like, what do you do, man? You tell them to come listen to the podcast.
There we go. I will
And
do
then
that.
they'll know.
Yeah.
They'll know.
I'll have to tell our detectives to do that so they know what I do.
Oh, there you
Exactly. I'll
go.
start putting it out. I'll be like, did you know what our computer crimes does? And they'll be like, this is absolutely
Really not.
not.
Absolutely not. And because
So we got a
I guess,
podcast
yeah,
on
we
that.
kind of said we got to rename that
Yeah.
computer crimes.
Yeah. What did you say? You said forensic data.
So digital forensics.
That's what it
That'd
is. That'd be a
more-
good name for
Digital
it.
forensics. That sounds fancy.
I know, that sounds-
fancy.
Yeah.
Sounds-
I
I
like
mean-
that way better. It's way more tech savvy
It is.
as to what you're doing now.
So here's the interesting. So there's a term called Internet of Things.
Yes.
The things.
Have
Why
you
does
heard
that
of that?
sound
Why does
familiar?
that sound familiar?
Internet of Things.
So
What is that?
what
heard
it catches the broad categories of devices. So think about a smart refrigerator, right?
Uh-huh.
They connect to the internet now.
Crime prevention. We learned it in crime prevention.
Totally
Internet of Things.
So
Don't remember what it is.
So yeah, Internet of Things is what it stands for. It's for all your
Yes.
devices that aren't like your typical phones or your computers that
Yes.
connect to the internet. So refrigerators, microwaves,
Alexa,
Wash-
right? No.
well, kind of, yeah. You
Yeah.
can use
Or like,
Alexa,
or like your doorbell.
doorbell.
Yes.
Yeah. So think about some of my trainings. This is a little bit off the cusp.
No, we're all learning. Everybody who's listening
So
to this is like, got down
they
their
were working a
notepad.
case, and an individual was saying that he couldn't have been in the house. Well, they had a smart refrigerator, and so they were able to pull data off the smart refrigerator as to when someone was opening and closing the door.
What?
And with that information and his cell phone data, they put him in the house at that time.
Stop it.
Wow.
So-
This is like CSI in real life.
And so they were able to use the information from a smart refrigerator to
From the
tie
Internet
some-
of Things.
Yep.
That's crazy.
So
Dang.
things people don't think about.
Internet of
How many things do you think you have in your house that are?
Now when I go
Internet
home and
of
open and
Things.
close my refrigerator and be like, oh no, me getting the jelly out. Put me in.
You have a smart fridge?
No,
Oh.
I like to tell it it's smart.
She likes to make it feel better about itself.
You are smart.
I just you is smart. I just want a fridge that makes two kinds of ice. Like the poop ice, that's what I call it. The little niblets.
I was gonna say, well, technically it kind of does if you have a water spigot. It gives you liquid ice and frozen ice.
Look at this.
It's all about perspective. How you
Yes.
look at it.
Yeah.
Glass
So.
half full of ice. Oh my goodness. Well, I think we're wrapping it up here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Detective Fife, for
Yes.
coming on and listening or talking to us
Yeah,
about
educating us and letting us in on what you do day in and day out, and you're not just the public, but I mean just other officers too. Now we
Yeah.
can.
The more you know.
The more you
the
know.
more you know about the Internet of Things.
That's
Internet
right.
of Things, file systems, hyperdecimal gloss.
Hexadecimal, but
Hexadecimal.
you were close.
We're so close. It's okay. We'll work on it.
Working on it.
Well,
Working on it.
Thank you guys for joining us here on Waco PD on the Beat. I'm Sierra Shipley, the Public Information Officer.
And I am Officer Draper with the Neighborhood Engagement Team.
Have a good one, Waco.
Waco PD on the beat. The heartbeat serving